You're tuned in to that praisey station, praise.fm, where we get our praise on. 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Momentum Shift. I am so excited that you all decided to be a part of my Tuesday night adventure. I know you guys have been waiting since last week because I have been pumping it up, that I have my sister Sade Bradford Vaughn with me tonight. I wish I had my foster kid shirt that I still, it's really a shame. It's really a shame that your own sister, who literally lives 5 minutes from me. Now, Kimberly Barnes has a shirt. And Kim lives all the way in Phoenix. She comes to my house. Sade comes to my house at least once a week. I'm still waiting for my shirt.
It is coming, sister. It's in the mail.
In the mail. You know what? This is what I'm talking about. This is how the folks do you. This is how family do you. You know, I'm gonna shout out Dr. Lady Rain. Oh, she's making it happen. She's making it rain in the Valley of the Sun. Sometimes she up early in the morning. Y'all already know I don't do praise in the AM because Dre asleep. However, I was awake this morning early. I woke up like 5 something this morning. I have no idea why, but I was awake. And no, I was not watching praise in the AM because I kept trying to go back to sleep. It just wasn't happening. When I'm up at night, Dr. Rain has one eye open and the other one closed. She's probably trying to figure out how she can go to sleep while she's producing the show. She's probably trying to figure out how she can take a nap on the QT. But welcome to Girl Shine Project. I am so excited to have you all be a part of what we are doing. We've been on the air a whole year, and I'm so excited about that. I am so excited about everything God is doing at Praise.fm radio. If y'all didn't hear the wonderful announcement, I want to give a shout out to all of you all who voted and voted and voted for the nomination. And guess what? Our station has been nominated at the Stellars. We're going to be at the Stellar Awards in July. So I am so excited about that. So you guys keep doing what you do. Keep watching, keep listening, keep supporting this station. If you want to figure out how to be a sponsor for this wonderful station, you can always hit us up on the website, by email, or through Facebook to see how you can be a part of what God is doing at Praise.fm radio. If you'd like to host your own show, you know what to do. Everyone has a voice, especially if you're a guest on my show. You know you have a voice. So Kim has joined the Praise.fm radio station family, and I'm looking forward to see who else wants to be a part of this family. So if you're interested in doing what I do, as a matter of fact, if you're interested in doing it better than the way I do it, I invite you to come and be a part of our family. Also, we've got the Heart Bible International University family as well. I am the D, one of the Ds here for the Phoenix campus. So if you're interested in getting a certificate program, either in Christian counseling, chaplaincy, life coaching, if you're interested in getting a bachelor's or a master's degree, as well as your PhD, we have it all. So if you'd like to know more about that program, you can always inbox me. You can go and like our page, HBIU Phoenix. Like our page so you can stay abreast of what's going on in this wonderful accredited university. We're not just hanging out and having church. We are actually doing something. The certification is an international certification. So don't think this is just a fly by night, just something, whatever. This is something that's useful. So I encourage you, if you want to further your education or would like to enhance what you're already doing, this is the university for you. Again, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about how you can be a part of the HBIU family. Now, we've gotten the preliminaries out. I want to give a couple shout outs to those that are on here. I want to say hi to Richie. Hi, Carmen. Hi, Will and Ursula. Let's see. Of course, now I can't see who else because they talking about taking road trips and got me all distracted. So now I can't see who on here. Sade, who else is on here?
My bestie Tawana.
Oh, Tawana. Who else? I can't. There's a bunch of people on here making comments, but I can't see who they are. Anybody else on that we haven't shouted out? Yeah, Richie's on here. Hi, Evelyn. I see Evelyn just commented. Anyone else? Shanika Smith. Welcome, Shanika. Welcome to the Momentum Shift. Who else? Oh, hi, Kim. We miss you. Hi, Kimmy. Kimmy decided to take a little break from us 2 weeks in a row. Wait a minute. Nah. Oh, is that what it is now? She always had her show. But since she didn't join, okay, I see how it is. And there's G Matic. Shout out to the power couple, my big brother PK and his very blessed wife. Oh, see, so that you getting shout outs on my show. Look at you. Somebody made. See, this is how it is. I guess when you own the station, it's like that. You get shout outs on somebody else's show. So that's how this works. I see how we doing it. Somebody named G Matic is shouting you out, Dr. Alicia. Yeah. Greg, she said to tell you hi, Greg. She's trying to stay behind the scenes. We keep trying to bring her in front of the camera, and she's like, nope, not gonna happen. Now, she said, Kim, we know you. He said he don't mean any disrespect. No disrespect. I'm just giving her a hard time. No, welcome to the momentum shift. You welcome to watch any and all the shows. We want the viewership here at Praise.fm radio. So, okay. I'm here, G Matic. I hear that you were a member of her church when she was back in New York. We got her here in Phoenix now. She's not going back. So you might have to come out here and visit her in Phoenix because we're not letting her go back. She can't go back to the East Coast. She on the West Coast now. So it is what it is. So yeah, Kim always out of state having vacations. That's Kim. I told y'all, Kim know everything. Kim do everything. Kim got all these lives. I don't know how Kim lived her life. And I'm not going to say I'm going to be like Kim when I grow up, because no, I'm going to be on vacation. So if I say that part of Kim, then yeah, I'll be on vacation too. So having said that, I've got Sade Bradford Barn here. She is the ultimate foster care guru. I hear a show. I really hear a show. All things foster care. I don't know what the Lord's going to do, but I hear a show. The foster care guru. The guru.
I don't know if I would call myself that. Not sure if that's a good thing.
It is a good thing because you know what? There are many people that are in foster care. There are parents that have foster kids. There are parents who may have children in foster care. And you have a lot to lend to the population, which brings me to why we are here. This is National Foster Care Awareness Month. I hope I got that right. It's also Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's also Andrea Awareness Month. So,
okay.
Well, this ain't right. How come Kim only shouting out Sade? I thought we were friends too. No, just my friend Sade. Really, Kim? Okay, I can't compete with Sade. I really can't. I can't compete with Sade. Everyone loves Sade. Sade is wonderful. And I'm not just saying that because she's my sister, but she is wonderful. I thought that before she became my sister. So share a little bit about what you're doing in the community in regards to foster care.
That is a very loaded question because I'm doing all the things. No, I'm kidding.
So all the things through Christ, according to Sade.
Right. So the fun thing about what's going on with me right now is I have found a way to kind of combine the things that I'm really good at with also just connecting with the foster care community. So for those of you all who don't know, I have a nonprofit and the founder and executive director of Free Foster Care Books Incorporated. And the cool thing about my nonprofit is that we focus on giving books and resources to any member of the foster care community to help them thrive. So I like how you kind of categorize the different members of the foster care community a few moments ago. We're talking about not just young people who are in foster care, but we're talking about foster parents, we're talking about biological parents, we're talking about kinship caregivers, because oftentimes they are overlooked as well. But the idea is to really merge these two passions of mine. For those who don't know, I'm an author I'm a writer by trade, probably have been writing the better part of 20 years. And so a lot of the books that we give away for free to any member of the foster care community oftentimes are written by me, but we do have some really cool people who are so gracious to donate their books and just kind of sew their books into free foster care books so that we can give them out for free. So just as a shameless plug, she didn't know I was going to do this, but the book that we're giving away for free for this month, which is, again, May, National Foster Care Month, is From Foster Care to a Millionaire by Lisa Shortino. I just want to hold up the book. Lisa Shortino is such an awesome, literally, she is such an awesome woman. She's an amazing person. She has just the most amazing story. That essentially talks about, just her experience of going through a very unfortunate life, early childhood situation, being placed in the system, and essentially picking herself up and getting herself trained and educated to eventually grow up to be a millionaire and an influencer in this sphere. So I'm really excited to give her book away for free. If anybody is interested, this is my shameless plug. You can go to freefostercarebooks.org and enter the keyword millions, and we send those out. So that's kind of what we're doing right now, merging my natural passion for writing and reading and all that fun stuff with giving it out for free to any member of the foster care community. So that's kind of like the basics right now, fun stuff.
Well, I think that's really exciting. And having said that, for those who may not know a little bit about you, would you mind sharing the parts you're comfortable with and how this passion even came about, and what made you decide to basically spend the rest of your life ministering to the needs of the foster care community?
So I grew up in the Michigan foster care system. I spent 7 years in the foster care system, aged out when I was 18. When I was 11, I lived with my aunt who had guardianship over myself and my siblings, and she decided for personal reasons that she no longer wanted guardianship. And so she placed myself and my siblings in the foster care system. And that kind of was probably a really dark period in my life. A lot of people don't necessarily know that, but it was a really dark period because it was a time where I experienced probably more self-doubt and low self-esteem, just because I dealt with rejection and felt as though no one wanted me. The people who should want me didn't want me, and so it was a really dark period in my life. And I remember, I'll tell you a funny story, and Tawana is on, so she'll remember this or a version of the story. I remember the day that my friends found out that I was in foster care. I want to say I was in middle school, like 7th grade or something like that. And one of the members of my group of friends saw, maybe it was a permission slip or some type of form that had my foster mom's name on it. And her name was different than my last name. And so somebody asked, like, who is that? Because they knew my foster mom up until that point. They had seen her before, but I guess they just never recognized the difference between the names. And it was such a mortifying experience. Even as I talk about it, I'm like, it kind of takes me back to that moment, because I thought to myself, like, this is kind of a moment of truth. Do I let them know that I was in foster care, or do I make up some random weird story just to explain away? But I ended up telling my friends, not knowing whether or not they would still be friends with me. And turns out one of my friends who was a part of that brigade 20 plus years later on the line today. So foster care was definitely a challenging experience for me, but it was more internal. It was more because of the self-doubt and, like I said, the rejection that I experienced that really led me down, going into my early 20s, really led me down a kind of, I would say, a dark path internally. I didn't trust a whole lot of people. I mean, I had my core group of friends, but I didn't trust a whole lot of people, which is fairly consistent with people who experience the foster care system. It was a very traumatic experience. And I think even 20 plus years later, right, because I'm well into adulthood, I think I still have some things that I'm working on in my adulthood. But in that, And I find myself to be fairly well adjusted as an adult, but I think that it was me going through that experience, being separated from the people who I consider to be my best friends, my siblings, and understanding the type of pain that young people experience. And then no one tells you that if you don't get help when you are young or in your early 20s, that the things that you experience in your childhood, they follow you. And so I have I think a very unique passion to reach out to people who are just like me. I'm an adult, well into my 30s, a woman of a particular age, but still some challenges. Seriously, but still having some challenges from being in the foster care system and feeling those feelings of rejection and feeling unwanted, and for people who are, again, well into adulthood, but they're still having some challenges. And it may not be the big things, right? It could still be that a person may have some challenges still trusting people, and they may not even be able to understand where that comes from. So I have a unique passion, I should say, to reach out to people who are just like me, well into adulthood, but still are having some challenges. And I, through my writings and through my givings, that's kind of my way. But any member of the foster care community can benefit from the stuff that we're doing through my nonprofit. But I feel uniquely connected to older adults who are still having some issues and want to be whole, want to live a fulfilled, I should say, and purpose-filled life, but they still may have some challenges in some areas. So that's why I like to do it. And on top of that, I have a little guy, my son, Matthew, he's 2 years old. As a mom, I want to be able to make my son proud of me. I want to be the type of mom that he's proud of. And so I think that's part of why I'm interested and have been kind of on this path for a very long time. So it's a round of answering your question.
So I heard you make a comment about the part about aging out of the system. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like? Because there may be some people in the audience that really don't know how that works. We may have known people who were in foster care. I know when I grew up, because I'm a woman of a whole lot more years than you. So when I said, "Are you serious?" You calling yourself like you're an old lady or middle-aged lady. I'm considered middle-aged. You are nowhere near middle age, but I remember growing up at least in the community, in the place where I grew up. I knew that there were kids that were in foster care. I did know that, but a lot of us either lived with our grandparents, not that I was, but my mom was a single parent. She was divorced. And in that season, the people I went to school with, I found myself explaining why my last name was different from my mom's. Because after her divorce, she went back to her maiden name and I had my dad's name. And that was always a place of explanation. And a lot of times when my mom would come, they would call her Mrs. Smith. And, obviously she didn't want to be Mrs. Smith because she had gone back to being a Johnson. But I grew up in my grandmother's house. And a lot of my friends or people around my age group, if they had anything going on, aunts, like you live with an aunt, that was typically what would happen. Or you may go from one family member to another family member, because I've gone through with people who have done that.
And we call that kinship. I'm sorry to interrupt. So that's considered to be like a kinship placement or like a kinship caregiver when you have a relative involved in the care of a young person. Yes. So, but even though you were done, she had guardianship. A lot of times in my age group, they didn't have guardianship. You just went and lived with a family member and you were raised up
with your grandma or, you know, or your cousins, and no one really questioned it. You just lived in that household, and that's just how you grew up. Everyone in the neighborhood knew you lived there. They may or may not know why. And it really wasn't even a question as to why. So there was no aging out of the system, so to speak. And of course, there were kids that were in the system, but it wasn't as common as, you know, at least down in the South where I grew up. What was that like, coming upon that season where knowing that, okay, you're going to turn 18, and how did you think about what that was really going to mean for you? I mean, what were your thoughts around that? If you can remember, so you can share with the audience a little bit about what that was like.
I appreciate that question. So just to give some context, although I aged out several years ago, at pretty much approximately about 25,000 young people age out of the foster care system every year, just in general. Back when I aged out, and I'll just say that things are much different and much more progressive now. But when I was in the process of aging out, if my foster mom is on today, I'm sorry, Lisa. I want to preface that. But what I'll say is that when I turned 18, in my mind, and I'm pretty sure some members of the audience will be able to probably relate to this. In my mind, I was grown and I was ready to go. I was ready to leave my mom's house. So that's what I did. I turned 18 in March of the year that I graduated. I want to say I graduated in like May. 2 weeks after I graduated, I moved into my dormitory, and that was pretty much it. Now, I will say that my foster mom did a really good job at teaching me some good basic life skills. And so I could take care of myself. But as you know, and as many members of our audience know, when you're 18, there's just a lot of stuff that you still don't know how to do. And so probably when I was like officially out her home and officially on my college campus, and the first holiday season rolled around, and I thought to myself like, ooh, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And I think it was around that time that kind of sank in, where I intentionally decided that I didn't want to go home for the holidays, but that was just because of a decision that I made in and of myself. But then being accountable for that decision, I also had to deal with spending holidays and extended breaks alone. And I think that a lot of young people don't always have the choice to choose to be alone. At any moment, I could have called my foster mom and said, you know, hey, Lisa, you know, I'm coming home for the weekend. And she would have gladly accepted me to come back, because that's home for me when I go home. But a lot of young people who transition out of the system, they don't have that, or they just don't have that as a luxury. In fact, I think statistically within 2 or 3 years, about 25% of young people who age out of the foster care system are homeless within 2 to 3 years. And so it's a challenge, but the foster care system in the United States, although they have there are a lot of challenges in that. I personally believe, and some people may not necessarily agree with this, but I personally believe that the United States does overall a better job at taking care of children who are placed in the foster care system, or children who are unable to be cared for by their biological family, than any other nation in the world. Now, that may or may not be saying a whole lot, but I think that we do it better than everyone else. But at the same time, a lot of people still have higher instances, like I said, of homelessness when they transition out, or they move around through systems, right? Whether it's the criminal justice system or the mental health system. So it's a scary situation for a lot of young people that are transitioning out. I think for me, the buffer that I had was that I went straight to college. And even though the university that I graduated from was I would say they were progressive at the time. They did the best that they could to solve the problems for the foster kids that were on campus by extending that housing during those off-peak seasons. I think I had a much better experience than a lot of young people do when they age out of the system, only because I had options. I always had a place to go home, if that makes sense, and a lot of young people don't.
Well, and it's interesting that you would say about over the holidays, because the truth of the matter is, I honestly I never even considered what happens to an 18-year-old that's in foster care. Because, like I said, in where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of that. Most people were in with kinship, whether they were there, whether they had guardianship or not, because obviously things are kind of like, they weren't like they are now, where you need that paperwork. You can't really sign anything or take care of the child. But the community kind of knew, because I remember when schools weren't even desegregated. So everyone kind of knew everyone in that community. So the teachers knew, the principal knew that, so-and-so was living with a relative or whatever. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But when I found out that that was an issue, I know from filling out financial aid paperwork on my own, whether you get student loans or not, there's the question on there on the FAFSA that asks about, were you awarded the state? And most people, or maybe I'll say me, maybe I just didn't know that that's really just one and the same. And, people don't give any thought. I think unless you've had some direct involvement or either some indirect involvement, I think we may be more aware now than what we were with all the things that go along with that system. It wasn't until until I became a social worker, because I went from my mom's house and I went to college. But one advantage you had that I didn't have is there was no extended holiday. So for people who had nowhere to go between Christmas and the spring semester, they went home with friends, because you could not stay on campus. And it maybe was because it was the historical Black university I went to, and they just didn't have the resources for that, or the idea was that most people had a place to go. I don't know, but that wasn't an option. So at least, thank God, you at least had the option to stay, and you had an option to go home. Some kids really have nowhere to go. They can go to college, but then there was just nowhere to go for the in-betweens and on breaks. So you kind of get to know, because I lived on campus, even though I lived down the street. So I got to know all the out-of-state and out-of-town kids that were at the university. So in fact, when I went to the Air Force, one of my old roommates actually lived with my mom for the summer.
I didn't know that.
Because she has a praise dance? Oh, really? She didn't even tell me she had a praise dance. Oh, see, well, praise the Lord. You know more than I do. Well, with that, so I just wanted to put that out there, that there are things that probably were happening in our lifetime that we may or may not have known. Right. That person had been in foster care or not been in foster care, and there may have been reasons why they had nowhere to go. And until actually you're talking about it now, I didn't even give it a whole lot of thought that, what happens to these kids when they age out of the system. So, well, on that, save that note until after the break, because we got to go to break now. From my understanding is we have a praise dance. Richland, I'm assuming it's Richland, did a praise dance that she's going to share with us tonight. And so you guys enjoy the Ministry of the Lord by Lachey Fox. And we'll be back after the break.
It's too late to start again. And I'm sure I'm useless.
My computer is
in the hands of the Creator. I'm not enough to salvage, and I'm not enough to build with, so don't try. I won't try. He's been careful with me, affirming word, writing on my heart, writing on my mind. walking around fearful. What if someone finds out the truth that I'm shattered, pieced together by the love of you, not worthy of your attention. I'm so guilty and ashamed. Please don't use me. But here comes your word, writing on my heart, writing on my mind. So I'll never forget it. It's a healing flame, writing on my heart, writing on my mind. So I'll never forget it.
Have you ever wanted to host your own inspirational radio show? Have you been called to inspire and spread God's word? Please contact Alicia Rain for more info.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Momentum Shift. That was amazing worship by Lachey Fox. If for whatever reason you are having a conference, you are having any type of engagement, birthday party, any special event, reach out to her to come and minister and worship. She is an anointed, powerful vessel of God. I love to see her worship. I love to watch her minister and dance before the Lord. She is in the process of birthing her own ministry called Hers Ministry. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about what God is doing in her life on that note. But there was a couple, thank you, Lachey, that was amazing. There was a couple of comments that I saw as I was scrolling, and one of them was Richland had shared, and I hope I don't miss anyone, but as I was scrolling back a little bit, Richland had said, you had made a comment about how you struggled. You went through a dark period at a time because you felt rejected and all the emotions associated with that. And Richland had said, let me make sure I get it right. She said, that she was saying definitely. She said she's 27 and she still struggles. Can you just share a little bit about how you got past that season in your life to where you can move sort of past that? And I know it's a process. It's not like a one and done, but what was your process, or what is your process of healing in that area of your life?
So a few things. The first thing I want to say, that hopefully nobody believes this, but I suspect that some people just do. A lot of times we have, I know, I'm pretty sure you may have heard this saying, time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And what happens is that when a young person experiences foster care, goes to the system, separated from family, siblings, their natural environment, has to switch schools, whatever the case it is, whatever happens in that process, that's traumatic, right? If somebody just came and just took you out of your home right now, that would create trauma in your life. And so a lot of times people like to think like, oh, over time, you'll just get over it. But time, sometimes when you don't address the trauma that you've experienced, time can actually make things worse, not better, because you don't deal with the thing, the issue that causing you to sad or to be depressed or to be angry. And so when you don't deal with those things, they just build up over time. That's really kind of more of a better issue. That's more of a better picture of what happens when you include time into the situation. It just builds up and it festers over time. So one of the things that helped me tremendously kind of move past some of the things that I experienced in my childhood, because although I went into foster care, I was kind of like volunteered, which is a little bit more unusual. Most young people experience abuse and neglect, and that typically is the cost for them to be placed in foster care. In my case, my aunt volunteered to give up her guardianship and place my siblings and myself into the foster care system. And so what I will say, it was no less traumatic, but I got counseling, and I am a big fan for anybody who knows me personally knows that I feel like it's okay for people to not be okay. It's okay to feel like you can have someone objective to talk to. And I'm not talking about like your girlfriends or, the people who are personal in your life. I think that oftentimes mental health services becomes highly stigmatized in our culture, although it's better, but it's still stigmatized. But a big role that mental health services play for me is that I received some help. I had a counselor, and I told this story not too long ago, but the church that I was attending when I was in college, the pastor, I told him a little bit about my life, and he's just like, yeah, you need some professional help that as a pastor I cannot give you. I can give you spiritual guidance, but you need a professional to help you. We'll deal with the spiritual stuff, and you let him deal with the mental health stuff. So the first thing that I would tell anybody who feels like,
I appreciate that, because he's probably, unfortunately, an outlier.
Oh, absolutely. That
was a blessing that you were in the right church. Well, even
absolutely.
15 years ago, literally, he was an outlier. I mean, he was probably, you didn't find, especially in African-American churches, actually not just African-American churches, church period. Because unfortunately, and for lack of a better way of putting it, we in ministry sometimes can almost develop a God complex where we think we can fix everybody, we can fix everything. And though well-meaning, I believe it comes from a good place the majority of the time, but oftentimes the things that we do in our trying to fix things often cause more damage. Because if you've not been trained and that's not your area of expertise, it's always better to refer out. I'd rather do that than to take on something that I can't handle and do more harm. And so I have to say, hands up, high five to that pastor who was honest and said, hey, this is way out of my scope of practice. Get you some help.
And the thing that was interesting to me in that moment is that he acknowledged that there was some spiritual things going on that he could actually help me with as my pastor, but he made it very clear that I needed some professional help, and the church paid for it. I like to say that was 15 years ago. Oh yeah, I like to give a timeline because that was progressive even back then. In 2021, you will find pastors that will not even think twice about doing something of that nature to get their members some help. So I appreciate it. My pastor was completely progressive and forward thinking. But I say all that to say, that's the first thing that I'll tell anybody is get some professional help. Oftentimes within community organizations, you have organizations that will offer services on a sliding scale. And essentially what that means is that they will accept payment of what you can afford based off your income. So if you don't necessarily have like a job that provides, benefits in that area, you can go somewhere in the community and get services on a sliding scale. But that's the first thing. If you need some help, professional help, I started there. And once I started with getting some professional counseling, my counselor was such an amazing person. He gave me tools to help me deal with the stress of life. He gave me very small things that I could do when I was feeling stressed, small things that I could do when I was feeling like, okay, life is getting too hard again. I'm thinking about what happened way back when. He just gave me a bunch of skills and and took the skill set that I already had and kind of built upon those skills that I had and gave me some new tools, essentially is what I'm trying to say. So that's a good place to start for anybody who is within adulthood and maybe feel as though they need to get some assistance. The next thing that I did, and this was probably like in my mid-20s, so after college, but in my mid-20s by the time I arrived in Arizona, and I've been out here for about 10 years, so definitely mid-20s. I was very intentional about how I thought. So a lot of times we don't think about what we're thinking about, and we can replay certain things over and over and over. We can create and craft stories and replay these memories of what happened 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And so I began to be intentional about what I was thinking about. And so I would quote Bible scriptures. I would write positive affirmation statements. And I know it may seem like a little silly to some people, but when you are constantly thinking negative, and that was a big problem that I had, in my early to mid 20s, even probably well into my late 20s, was I had a negative thought problem. And so I would kind of fixate on the things that happened, the things that happen and the things that happen. I fixated on those negative things. And so to combat that mindset, I just started being more mindful about what I was thinking about, but intentionally thinking about things that were good, things that made me happy, things that made me smile. And a lot of that came through repetition, and just repetition and reading things that were positive. So those are kind of some of the things that I did. I know personally forgiveness was a big thing. If nothing else, if I never got counseling, if I never said any positive affirmations, me making an intentional decision to forgive the people who had hurt me, forgive the people who were responsible for me being in foster care in the first place, that was probably the biggest thing that helped me to move forward. And even today, I can't say like, oh, I am 100,000%. I don't have any struggles or I don't have any issues. I would be lying if I said that. But what I can say that, today at my age, I consider myself to be extremely well adjusted, but that's because I was very intentional in doing the work. And I think regardless of whether a person was in foster care, whether your father walked out on you, whatever negative life circumstance that people experience, if you want to move forward and get healing in your life, you have to do the work. And the work is not easy, the work is not fun, but it is definitely worth it when you see yourself on the other side.
So a lot of what I'm hearing you say is you, chose to forgive.
Oh, absolutely.
First thing, because without that, nothing else works. And it sounds like instead of saying repetition, you remain consistent. You had to consistently, day after day, replace the thoughts, the negative thoughts, block those thoughts with positive affirmations. And it took some consistency. First, you had to make a decision that, hey, I do not want to live like this. And then you did what you needed to do to ensure that wouldn't be a repetitive cycle in your life. So it took doing the work, and part of that is being consistent. So now that we shared how you got on this journey, what do you see now as the most important thing that you can do, or anyone who wants to come and collaborate with you in what you're doing? What would you tell someone if they walked up to you and asked you a question such as, well, either I was in foster care, or I knew someone was in foster care, or I haven't known anybody in foster care. What can I do to help? What would you say?
I appreciate that question. Again, I think being able to look into your own community just to see what opportunities are available. I'll tell you now, there's such a high need for mentors within the foster care community. So if you're a person that maybe you don't feel like, oh, I want to be a foster parent because maybe your life circumstance doesn't support that, or whatever the case, you don't necessarily have to be a foster parent, although foster parents are always in great need and not always in great supply, but the need is great. But I recommend, if people are interested in being a foster parent, do a general Google search. If people are interested in maybe being connected to a young person, but maybe not in a parental role. Again, there's a high need for mentorship. There's some upcoming federal legislation around mentors for foster kids that's coming down the pipeline that I think that will be helpful. So mentoring is always a good thing. It's always good to have, for a young person to have like a solid permanent connection, an adult that they can connect with and be able to talk to outside of their general environment. So mentorship is always a good thing for people who maybe want to take even a further hands-off approach. You say, well, maybe I don't want to be a mentor, but maybe you want to just do some volunteering work. There's so many foster care organizations that even in the midst of COVID-19 going on, they need help putting together backpacks, putting together booklets. Like, it's hands-off work, but it's good work that still contributes to enhancing the foster care community. And then maybe you are somebody that wants to take an even further hands-off approach, but still add some value to the foster care community. I will always recommend that anyone is able to donate time, effort, energy, money to my nonprofit organization, Free Foster Care Books. We are always willing to accept any type of donations or just anything from the community that would make a person feel like they're still contributing in a meaningful way, but it's still a hands-off kind of approach. So you really kind of have the person would have to decide what level of assistance am I willing to provide. And once you decide that, pretty much it's just a Google search away. And there's no shortage of foster care organizations outside of my own that would be willing to accept any type of assistance from a member of the community that just wants to help.
So that's in kind or, financial assistance, what, depending on what what your level of commitment and what you'd like to be a part of. If you all have enjoyed tonight, well, I can't believe how fast the time has gone. Wow. It's already 8:26, and I just want to thank you, Sade, for coming on and sharing your heart and sharing your desire and your passion and what you're doing in your, I'll call it ministry, whether you choose to call it ministry or not, in your ministry, and how you're giving back. And that's the epitome of what Girl Shine is about. Being able to use what the enemy tried to take to bring you down, and you use it as your step up to help someone else, to help pull somebody else up. Because I'm just a firm believer that whatever we go through, we don't go through it just to keep it to ourselves.
Right.
We get through it so that we can help someone else get through it. So I appreciate you for coming on tonight and sharing your heart and your passion. And if you can put in the comments how people can actively, it's already there, just that quick. Tawana, Tawana did it. Oh my gosh. Literally, I was just going to ask you to do that, and Tawana did it. Donate, because there's so many awesome things. Real quick, share with them about what you're doing in honor of Foster Care Awareness Month, what you're doing with the domestic violence shelter and how that connects with the foster parents. Just really quickly.
So just for people who may not be aware, I have, I call it a very, very amazing privilege to partner with you, my sister, Giselle Mary Kay. And one of the things that we are doing, and in honor of National Foster Care Month, but just as a way to honor mothers, I am a firm believer that oftentimes biological mothers whose children are removed from their care, biological parents tend to be a little bit villainized a little bit. So a way that we are collaborating is that we have selected a really awesome domestic violence shelter to be able to donate some wonderful Mary Kay, and also one of my upcoming books that's dedicated specifically to parents, biological parents whose children have experienced foster care. And so it's a really cool way to encourage and motivate biological parents, because they matter as well. And oftentimes, again, we tend to villainize biological parents, biological moms. But, what I like to say is that, I don't know a person who has lived life without making mistakes. And I think that the circumstances that cause a child to be removed from their parents' care can be a mistake that a biological parent makes. But I don't think that our mistakes should define us. And so this is my way of being able to give back to biological mothers. So please, if you all are interested, we'll probably be issuing a press release probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so, but it's just something that we are doing because Free Foster Care Books, again, doesn't just focus on giving out books to foster kids or foster kids who've aged out of the system, foster care alumni, but it really is about encouraging everybody that interacts within that system. Again, biological parents, foster parents, kinship caregivers, caseworkers, social workers, and this is just our way of being able to encourage our biological parents. So I'm really excited to partner with you, sister, on this one, and it's just good work to do.
Well, and I'm looking forward for opportunities to be able to partner with you in the future. And if someone else has a business that they would like to be a blessing to this wonderful organization, and you'd like to partner with Sade in this endeavor, please reach out to her, because there's plenty of opportunities for us all to get involved in this network. And I just believe it takes a village. I really do believe that it literally takes a village. Everyone has a part to play. And however you find that you can play a part in what God is doing through this wonderful nonprofit, do so. On that note, I hate to say we have to leave, but we do. It's 8:31 actually, and we need to go. I appreciate everyone for watching. Thank you so much, Sade, for coming on. And hopefully I'll get my foster kid shirt really, really soon. And maybe if I keep saying it, I'll get it. I may have to just go over there and get my shirt. So, it is, but it's probably not even made yet. But if make sure you reach out to her and get one of those foster kid shirts, because with those proceeds, she will pour it back into her nonprofit. And it's all a part of how she's able to give away free books, because writing books isn't free, and certainly publishing them isn't free either. So however you can be a blessing, do so. And until next time, I'm going to say good night. And again, thank you all for voting for our station. Praise.fm Radio has been nominated Stellar Awards nominee. So this is such an exciting time. Continue to watch, continue to share, continue, because we are so excited about everything God is doing, and we want to continue to take it forward in Jesus' name. Until next time, Girl Shine Project says good night all. And don't forget to shift your momentum. See you next time. Good night.
You are tuned in to that crazy station, Praise.fm, where we get our praise on. 24 hours, 7 days.